Unleash the power of knowledge and connect with the heartbeat of the African diaspora. Download our African Diaspora News Channel app now on Google Play and Apple App Store. Stay informed with authentic and diverse perspectives, breaking news, and cultural insights. Immerse yourself in a community that celebrates unity, resilience, and progress. Experience the vibrancy of the diaspora at your fingertips. Don't miss out. Empower your perspective today. Search African Diaspora News Channel and join the conversation.
In recent years, we are noticing a trend, a huge shift when it comes to immigrants that have left their countries, not just, by the way, in African context. We're talking about immigrants from all over. It could be from Africa, but also Asia. After they leave their own countries and settle in this Western country, specifically, mostly we hear either in the US, Canada, or the UK, they start missing their home and they start realizing that what they had back home, even though they're getting much less when it comes to money, they start to realize that it's not all about money, and they find out that it's more depressing to be in that new environment, and they are opening up more now more than ever. Watch this clip of a sister calling America a soulless place. We'll come back and discuss.
I love seeing videos of people that have moved out of the US and they say stuff like, I make less money here, but my quality of life is better. I'm happier. People seem happier here. People are outside more. I see my friends more. And I'm always like, yeah, the US is a soulless place, and you're realizing that. And I feel like this is something that immigrants realize pretty quickly, whether they can fully admit it to themselves or not. It's not just that you're homesick and that you miss home. I think a part of you realizes that this place doesn't have a soul, and if anything, it's taking yours. Because I think the US requires you to be a consumer.
That is harsh. She called it a soulless place. And I believe the reason why she said that is comparing it to maybe where she comes from. And this is an argument we hear, not necessarily it being soulless, but the difference between, let's say, the United States and insert any country, African country, for example. The people, the society is just different. In the US, you might not know who your neighbor is. You don't talk to them. You don't have a conversation with them. You don't have that kind of connection. Not always, but we're generalizing, of course, most of the time. But in the Africa context, in most countries in Africa, you know your neighbor. If anything, you are like family. You check on each other. You see if they need help. If they need anything, let's say they finished salt, they can just knock at your door, take from you. They can have your kids over. You can have their kids over. Believe it or not, in certain parts of Africa, your neighbor is even allowed to spank your kid to teach them a lesson if they saw them doing something bad and you're not around. It's that kind of closeness and society that these people are raised in. And once they leave that environment and they're immigrants and they're trying to assimilate and get used to the new way of life that they just subscribe to, they find it very hard because that social aspect of it is not there anymore. They feel lonely, they feel alone, and they have to work for longer periods of time to get more money. The thing is, they're making a whole lot of money because they can have 2 jobs, 3 jobs, they can hustle, they can, change their life in that monetary side of things. But then the other side, they feel empty, they feel like they're lonely and they have no one else. So I think that is what is making people more depressed. And let's also not forget the weather. In Africa, it's mostly sunny, mostly a bright day, most days, unless it's winter. So because of that reason and the weather change, and maybe they're moving to a place where they don't see that much sun. And even biologically, I think we need that as melanated people. You need more, that vitamin D. Africa offers that. The other nations, you might need to take, supplements to cope with that. And of course, with any change, with any move, there's culture shock, right? So it's understandable. But, the reason why I like this kind of conversation is because for the longest time, it has been kept a secret. And most of our younger generation in Africa grew up thinking that Western world is just heaven on earth. And that made a lot of people work hard to leave their country and their situation. Instead of building where we are, everyone is moving away. And that is impacting us. That is not helping the locals here on the continent, and we need to develop our own before going somewhere and developing someone else's nation. So it's important that we hear from those that have left the continent. It's not all roses and sunshine and butterflies. It's good to know. That's all I'm saying, right? There are people that move to the US and they love it and they'll never come back. Never, ever, ever come back. And they make it very clear. That's good. That's one perspective, but we also need to hear the other perspective of those that don't make it, or they try to make it. They're barely making it, but they're struggling. It's important to have both perspectives so people can decide based on that instead of hating their situation and their motherland just so they can dream about greener pastures when that might not be possible for them. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, fam, let us know down below what your thoughts are about this. I am Wongel Zelalem. I'll see you on the next one.